Joshua Buatsi knocks out the previously unbeaten Daniel dos Santos with one punch in the fourth round. This was Buatsi's first fight under his new trainer, Virgil Hunter. In terms of his demeanor, Joshua Buatsi reminds me a bit of Manny Pacquiao because he's very respectful and slightly softly spoken outside the ring in interviews and what have you. But as soon as the first bell goes, ding ding, round one, Joshua Buatsi's got daggers in his eyes. He is coming for your soul like the Grim Reaper. Just a vicious, vicious guy in the ring, which is what we like to see, of course. Now, he was angered by his opponent on a couple of occasions, most notably when his opponent dos Santos picked him up. He grabbed the back of Joshua Buatsi's legs when they were in a clinch, and he flipped him over. He dumped him onto the canvas. And Buatsi was incensed by that. He got up and he squared up to dos Santos and he was saying something to him. But from the opening bell, Buatsi did what he normally does, established that vicious jab, spiteful punches, applying pressure to the opponent. You could see little hints of the Virgil Hunter influence, but nothing too major as of yet. I mean, it's not like with Tony Yoka, for example, where Yoka, the way he stands, particularly early in a fight, the way he stands, the way he moves his feet, it just looks like Andre Ward. Even his haircut, right, is reminiscent of Andre Ward. But with Joshua Buatsi, you saw tiny little hints of the Andre Ward-esque stance from time to time. But for the most part, it was the old standard Joshua Buatsi. And there's nothing wrong with, well, let me not say there's nothing wrong with it. He's got some flaws, and we saw them again tonight. But it was more the old style Joshua Buatsi than the Virgil Hunter Joshua Buatsi. If indeed Virgil Hunter's looking to change him that radically, he might just be looking to tweak certain things rather than turn him into an Andre Ward clone, which is what some fighters under under Virgil Hunter have kind of turned out to be. Not as good as Andre Ward, of course, but stylistically, they almost look like clones of him. Maybe he's not looking to do that with Joshua Buatsi. We'll wait and see. But yeah, Buatsi came out, put dos Santos under pressure immediately. He had him down in the fourth round, some right hands, and dos Santos had to take a knee. The third round may have been the round where he dumped Buatsi onto the canvas. I can't remember now. But in the fourth round, just as Nick Horlin, the DAZN commentator, was saying that Buatsi wasn't looking that impressive, he maneuvered dos Santos into a corner and he carried out a move which Virgil Hunter had called for in between rounds. He told Buatsi to look down and go to the head. So look at dos Santos' body to draw his attention down and then come with a right hand over the top. Joshua Buatsi executed it perfectly. One shot, dos Santos was out before he hit the canvas, but Buatsi hit him with a follow-up on the way down, which was absolutely brutal. And Buatsi immediately looked like he was trying to apologize for hitting the guy on the way down. There was nothing wrong with it, by the way. The guy hadn't yet hit the canvas, so when a guy is in the process of falling, you can still hit him. But Buatsi seemed immediately apologetic. He got down on his knees and he was concerned for his opponent. And that is, again, very Manny Pacquiao-esque, where Pacquiao will brutally knock a guy out and then he's coming over to see if they're all right. That's something that Mike Tyson early on in his career, he used to do that as well. In fact, even later on in his career, he was doing it. That's something which he got from a lot of the older fighters back in the 20s and the 30s. Some of them used to do that. They'd knock their opponent clean out and then they'd come over and try and help them up. So yeah, Joshua Buatsi, devastating knockout, a contender for knockout of the year for sure. As far as my assessment of his performance overall, he has a hot-headed, spiteful streak in the ring, and he's going to need to watch that a bit because Dos Santos was clipping Joshua Buatsi with sneaky left hands. And look, this is a guy who came to win. He was 15-0 going into this fight. And for all we know, he might be a half decent fighter. Joshua Buatsi was able to take him out in relatively short order. But from here on in, we'll see if Dos Santos can come back and give some other guys more issues than this. Maybe get some decent wins under his belt. I don't know. But yeah, this is a guy who came to win. He was landing a few sneaky left hands on Joshua Buatsi, occasionally turning southpaw and taking advantage of Buatsi's over-eagerness, if that's even a word. Buatsi did get a bit over-eager, bit hot-headed at times, needs to curb that. And I think that Virgil Hunter is the perfect trainer to help him curb that, because Virgil Hunter says that Buatsi is on course to fight for a world title within the next 2 years. And he said he wants to have a few fights with Buatsi to work on certain things, get used to working with each other, and so on. And I think the one area that he's really going to need to focus on is just calming Buatsi down in the ring sometimes when he gets those daggers in his eyes and he wants to go for the finish almost from the opening bell. You don't want to take it out of him, no, but you want to temper that a little bit so he doesn't make too many mistakes, so he doesn't get reckless. And occasionally Joshua Buatsi does get reckless. I mean, we saw in his previous fight against this guy, Marco Calic, Buatsi, again, was having issues with the jab, got hit with some decent shots, had a few problems. That was his toughest fight to date, was against Marco Calic. And got his eyes swole up, had to come through adversity. But that was also a little bit of a gut check for Buatsi, the Calic fight, because when you get your eyes swollen up like that, I've seen many a prospect, I'm sure most of you have, who have just fallen to bits. Off the back of a little bit of adversity for the first time in their careers. Their whole body language changes. Whereas Joshua Buatsi just dug in and gritted his teeth and got even more spiteful with Calic. You see, that's where the spitefulness can help you, is when you're up against it, when there's a little bit of resistance that you're having to overcome. Having the spitefulness inside of you, it's like, no, you're not going to do this to me. I'm going to get you. Do you know what I mean? That kind of thing. So, yeah. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Joshua Buatsi's performance against Dos Santos, great knockout. Dos Santos was crying almost hysterically after the fight once he came to, because he was knocked out cold. He crumpled to the canvas like, I don't know how to describe it, but he crumpled to the canvas. Did I say campus? He crumpled to the canvas, excuse me. As if it was a demolition, like a TNT in a building. You demolished it, just crumpled. And it kind of reminded me of Henry Akinwande when he got knocked out by Oliver McCall. That was on the undercard of Lennox Lewis versus Hasim Rahman 2. And yeah, when Akinwande came to from being out, knocked out, he was crying as well. And normally, I've seen it quite a few times. I've even seen it in the gym. And it normally happens with someone who's never been knocked out before and they get knocked out badly. And they wake up in a state of confusion. They're told what happened to them. And sometimes they can just be very, very distressed and they start crying. And that's what happened with Dos Santos. I mean, he was still crying, apparently in the dressing room after the fight. So he was crying in the ring. He was crying when the referee was holding the Buatsi's hand up, when they come to the middle of the ring and the MC announces the result of the fight. He was crying then. Buatsi tried to console him. And then I saw some footage where the guy was crying in his dressing room too. So it clearly meant a lot to him. And as I say, it's a traumatic thing getting knocked out. I'm sure there are going to be people laughing and this, that, and the other. It's not like he was, a guy that lost on points and still got a silver medal in the gold in the Olympics and lost by narrowly by a couple points. No, this is a guy who got devastatingly knocked out. And for some guys who get knocked out like that, it can mess with the brain chemistry. I don't know what it does, but I've seen this happen to guys where they get knocked out really badly and they're just emotionally traumatized when they come to. They're not quite with it. You understand? Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments below about Joshua Buatsi's performance. Overall, I think it was good. And I think he's with the right guy in Virgil Hunter. So there you go.